Wow, oh, that was actually really fun. Sure, it was like insanely easy, and you know, it ended on sequel bait. It's a shame that we didn't get to see VANNY in it. You know, she had a lot of potential to be an actually really cool villain. Ah well, hopefully she'll get treated better in the next game. You know, I'm really excited and optimistic about where her story could possibly go after this game.
That's all, folks.
What the fuck? In ever-loving what do you mean she's gone? Well, looks like today I am the circus's silliest clown because Princess Quest is the canon ending. Fucking hell. So, is she really just gone after that shit show? Never to return after being hyped for literally 3 fucking games. You know, all the hype, the foreshadowing, as well as like in story as well. It's like, oh, this is the next part of William Afton's devious schemes. Oh yeah, that is what Glitch Shop sounds like. I humbly declare that's canon. Resulted in her chasing a 7-year-old around a mall for 6 hours and fail. So, yeah, no, after coming to all these realizations, right, that got me thinking, what if a reluctant follower wasn't so reluctant after all? What if VANNY was a character that didn't get dunked on by kids? That is exactly what we are exploring today. What if VANNY was in ruin? After many sleepless nights playtesting and developing the new VR game at the commission of Fazbear Entertainment, it's not really surprising that Vanessa will be incredibly excited at an excuse to actually scout out some original locations that were once fully functioning restaurants back in the late 90s. Some of the leading software engineers had specifically applied to the project managers to get special permission from Fazbear Entertainment to actually get to go on these grounds. You know, these days they were kept pretty tight under lock and key. The ghost stories about these places had essentially become legendary, meaning that the attempted break-in from every other group of thrill-seeking teenagers was pretty much a daily occurrence at this point. Heck, Vanessa had even been in one of these groups with a bunch of her old school friends, most of which she doesn't really speak to anymore. She always used to be the shy type, only really ending up forming friendships with people she just so happened to be sat next to, and would always be seeking forms of approval from them. But unfortunately, after school, none of them stuck. She kinda got left in the dust a little bit, and now all she really had was this lousy dead-end job, making just general software and occasionally a game for the highest bidder, with skills in programming that far excel any of her co-workers, essentially going to waste due to just her overall lack of confidence. So, after all these years, returning back to all these old locations was almost kinda bittersweet. They were using these old abandoned buildings as references for 3D models, as well as to see if they could scan in any data from old abandoned machinery. Every now and then they hit the jackpot and found an entirely functional animatronic or something like that, allowing them to fully replicate the shows that these animatronics would actually put on by using all the doodads, the circuit boards, stuff like that. Get it all cooking in a virtual machine, you know. Honestly, pretty simple stuff for somebody with as much IT prowess as Vanessa. So her and the team go around searching for all these abandoned parts. You know, old decorations, masks, abandoned stuff, anything that they can use in the game. Now, as they continue their journey, a lot of the workers end up getting kinda paranoid after essentially a full day of trekking through like old creepy abandoned kids entertainment locations, a lot of which people claim to be linked to mysterious disappearances, and multiple of which have completely burned down. And what had started out as a fun recon trip to find some old parts was now slowly beginning to put everyone on edge. Everyone except Vanessa. All of this was strangely comforting to her. In a strange way, she found herself relating to these places. Places once filled with joy, quite literally left in the dust, lacking any form of real purpose anymore. But little did she know, just like these old locations, she was about to find what she would later consider to be her true purpose. After a while, they pulled up at a location that was very close to Vanessa's old childhood home. Even though she hadn't been there for years, it didn't take Vanessa long to realise that this was the exact place that her and her old friends raided all those years ago. One of the oldest locations they'd managed to find. The state of the place made it hard to tell it was even a building at some point. But nonetheless, the incredibly charred sign out the front that used to read Fazbear Frights was just completely illegible. But still there. The whole place was just covered in graffiti. And there were multiple places in the establishment where it became evident that multiple groups of kids wanted to use this place as their secret hideout or something. Which, to be honest, is completely fair. This place looks fucking badass. It's literally an abandoned haunted house that got burnt to the fucking ground as a result of foul play. As Vanessa was mapping out the location, everything matched perfectly with when she was a kid, having once been a pretty big fan of the whole mystery behind these so-called haunted locations. She had ended up coming out here quite a few times, which meant that charting out the place and gathering anything of value couldn't have been any easier after the location was pilfered for essentially everything worth any form of value. Vanessa stuck behind to explore a little bit more whilst her crew returned to the van. After what felt like a surprisingly long journey, she made her way into the kind of back rooms area. Back when it was a horror attraction, it was the place where people would usually get funneled to in order to leave. But something must have blocked off the exit, as the entire area was pitch black. So she had to resort to touch, tracing her fingers across the walls to get a bearing. And this was working, until the corridor she was following ended. It just couldn't be. There was a room here. She was sure of it. Plus, it would make zero sense for this corridor to just end in nothing. After a while of trying to find this room that she was so sure was there, a frustrated Vanessa eventually gives up and returns to the crew. But on her way out, she kicks a wall in frustration, only to see her foot go through. It was made out of cheap plaster and plywood to make it a constructive barrier, and it had all been painted to make it look like a part of the wall, and a faint red light was coming through it. So she does what any reasonable human being would do and pick up a big piece of rock and beat the ever-loving shit out of it with it. And after a little bit, she managed to make a hole big enough to peer through, to really get a good look at what this red light was. The bright red light from the thing's eyes engulfed the walls, revealing the scratches to be tally marks. Rows upon rows upon rows of completed tallies cover every inch of wall. The thing stumbles forward in a twisting motion as the last of its muscle fibers battle against rusted joints. With what little strength it has left, it raises up its arm and plunges its hand deep into its chest and withdraws a circuit board and offers it to Vanessa through the wall before collapsing into a pile of metal. Even though it may have seemed completely stupid, in the adrenaline of the moment, Vanessa takes it from its hand and runs, being completely unaware to the evil she had just re-released onto the world. And I'm real sorry to end it off on a cliffhanger, but I think that's all I've got time for today. But stick around because we've still got stuff to talk about. I want to upload kind of semi-frequently and I'm literally just one guy, so I kind of wanted to get this video out at some point within the next century. Now, I do certainly intend on doing a second part to this video as well, to cover the rest of the story of this kind of alternate timeline Vanessa that I've cooked up, and that should be containing everything from FNaF Help Wanted to Ruin. So let's just get to it. Let's get to discussing about the story that you just heard, and why I made the changes to it that I did. So first off, the biggest change in the story so far is that Vanessa is specifically one of the people who went out on the recon trips to all the FNaF locations. One of the main reasons why I did this is to make it so that Vanny actually has more of a connection to Afton. It also means that the relationship between these two characters can actually evolve rather than Vanny just kind of acting as just one of William Afton's mindless Freddy Faz goons. It'll also allow William later on in the story to play into one of his strongest character traits as a villain, his determination and skill to use anything and anyone to further his own goals. And at this point in the story, William Afton has essentially lost everything, all of his assets and all of his connections. Because after all, he's just kind of been reduced to a rotting corpse in a furry outfit. So obviously William would want to get as much as he physically can out of this opportunity given to him by Vanessa. And Vanessa being the one to actually go and set William Afton free like that could end up being used for leverage by William, as William explaining how thankful he is to be set free by Vanessa to her could serve as the beginning of Vanessa beginning to trust William more and more, through him being able to actually speak to her through the game. I'm sure William could also use this in some way to kind of make Vanessa feel like a chosen one in some weird way, to further convince her to act as some form of disciple to him, without any form of having to shovel in some bullshit, oh the glitch trap virus, shit like that, you know? No mind control, no nothing. The reason why I changed that so heavily is because one of the reasons why I was so disappointed with Vanny when she came out in the games was that she was essentially not even a character. In Security Breach, her character just kind of served as a vessel for this whole narrative they were spinning with the glitch trap virus. Heck, she only has 6 unique lines of dialogue in the entire game. You see what I mean, right? She's not really a character. So with this new narrative I've made for her, it actually allows her to be a character. Crazy, I know. Like, this just adds so much more to her as a character. Like, where do her loyalties really lie and stuff like that? Does she have any form of, like, ulterior motive separate to William? How could Gregory or Cassie actually manage to convince her to come to the good side or something like that, without it just being, oh yep, she's fine now, she's just eating ice cream on this fucking hill and they all lived happily ever after and Vanny was never seen again? Wow. What a lovely ending. So yeah, I think that about rounds off today's episode. I hope you had as much fun watching this as I did making it. Subscribe if you want to stay tuned for part 2. It really would certainly mean a lot to me. And if you're hunting down for more stuff like this, well, you're in luck. Plus, I got much more stuff like this on the way, so stay tuned, you know? Anyway, thanks for tuning in to The Static this evening, and I hope I see you next time.